Hey everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer, Tucker Sennett, joining you here tonight to discuss the reason why it's not time to hit the panic button on the Wolfpack making the NCAA tournament. I know the last 3 weeks have been nothing short of a disaster in terms of finishing the season strong. There was a moment there where it looked like the Wolfpack could get up as high as a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament, with some luck competing for that top 4 seed in the ACC, that top 4 finish in the league. And then, the wheels have kind of come off the bus from there. They get that one win over UNC. And other than that, it's been 5 of 6 losses. And some of those games are coming to teams that are simply in a different weight class. Will Wade talked a lot about that, beating a Virginia and a Duke in this program's first year under Will Wade was always going to be a tall task. I think Virginia is a little bit more disappointing to a lot of people because, that's a team that also has a first year head coach, but they had a little bit more of a blueprint in terms of how they wanted to do things. And they identified players that were more fitting to a system, whereas NC State kind of assembled things on the fly. Will Wade was a little behind schedule when putting this team together, and they've underachieved in the eyes of many. But still, it's not time to panic about missing the NCAA tournament. The pack just needs to win one of the next 2 games, essentially. There are 2 guaranteed games left on the schedule. A win gets NC State to 20 wins on the season, which is usually a pretty good indicator of teams that make or don't make the NCAA tournament. You don't see a lot of 19-win teams earning an at-large bid. A 20-win team, even a 21-win team, is going to be fairly safe. The metrics still view NC State pretty positively, despite losses like a 29-point loss to the nation's best team on Monday. However, the margin for error is much thinner, and Will Wade did mention that. But when you look at the bracket matrix, which accumulates all of the NCAA tournament bracketologists' data into one place, NC State is still in 132 of 132 possible brackets. Now, there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams between NC State and potentially falling off of brackets. To get to the 11 seed, there's 6 teams. So there's some room for error, but not a lot anymore. And a loss to Stanford creates some serious concern. ESPN still has NC State as a lock in their bracketology, so they're not super concerned, but things are definitely getting a little bit testy here at an important time of year. Clemson obviously loses tonight to North Carolina, which kind of helps NC State, but doesn't totally help NC State. Miami's still red hot. So some of these losses are actually becoming more positive for the Wolfpack. We'll see what happens in the long run. But all in all, one win is kind of the difference between this team being an NCAA tournament team and not. And I know the mindset around this program right now is fairly negative, and that's understandable based on how the last few weeks have gone. I know Quadir Copeland was bugged by that last night during the press conference. He said, everybody's riding high when they won their 6 games in a row, and now everybody's kind of sad. And he said, they want to detach themselves from this program. And I think that's definitely the case based on social media and just general being in the building, there's sort of a growing sense of apathy towards this group. And there's still a lot of basketball to be played. You got these 2 games left, guaranteed games, and then you have, whatever you got in the NCAA tournament left, as long as you win one of those two. And this is a program that miraculously pulled out a Final Four run 2 years ago. I'm not saying that this team is capable of what that team was, but I think from a talent perspective, there are really, really good basketball players on this team. The size issue is what I think will prevent this team from going on a run, and kind of puts the ceiling on this team as probably one tournament win, is my guess. If they get some help, and this team's a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament and a 2 seed goes down to a 15, then we're having a very different conversation. And NC State is cruising through that first couple rounds and into a Sweet 16 thing. If they're a 9 seed and they just get hot for whatever reason, then they're playing in the Sweet 16. I don't think either of those things are going to happen. I think it's going to be a quick trip through the NCAA tournament, if I'm being totally honest with you. But all in all, I think the idea that this has been a total failure of a season is sort of overblowing how this year has gone for NC State. And this is a program that hasn't had any consistency in many, many years. And I think, the goal long term for Will Wade is to bring that consistency back here. And, while this isn't the immediate success that he sort of promised indirectly, it is the level of consistency in terms of, this you would hope is the floor of what this program can be. And I think he's shown his disappointment in this group, and that indicates that this probably is the floor in terms of his standards. And if his standards are as high as he claims that they are, then there's only one direction, and that's up. I don't think the bottom is going to fall out on this team after 1 year. I think there's too much investment in this coach. There's too much investment in making NC State a basketball brand again. And, that's something that they're going to continue to strive for. And that starts with these next 2 games. Simple as that. This is your last chance to salvage something in this season to ensure that you have a chance to be on the biggest stage. And then when you're on the biggest stage, you just figure it out, and you never know. That's really all the Wolfpack can do the rest of the way. That's what they'll try to do. They're going to play 1-game seasons. That's what Will Wade said. That's what Kareer Copeland said last night. And that's, again, all they can do. As always, really appreciate you all tuning in to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Tucker Sennett. Feel free to follow me on social media at Sennett Tucker on X. You can also follow our website at Wolfpack on SI. And of course, subscribe to our sports videos on SI YouTube channel for more episodes of the NC State Insider Podcast. Thanks, and we will catch you next time.